Today, I'm joined by Christian Facey, CEO of AudioMob, a company helping businesses tap into one of the fastest growing online market segments. First of all, Christian, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so here's what fascinates me. When I first saw your company name, AudioMob, I thought you were probably a tech company that designs audio gadgets. But when I read the company profile, I discovered that you were an in-game audio advertising company, which is ingenious. How did this idea come about?
My background is I used to work at Google as a strategist. So I'm basically managed around $100 million or so for some of the world's largest media clients, advertisers. And I crossed over to Facebook to become a science partner. So that's measuring the true value of advertising and how someone is moved along a funnel to make a purchase of some kind. And outside of work, I've developed my own mobile games. So I'm actually a massive gamer. You probably see PS5 back there. I decided to start making my own mobile games. And I started digitizing Japanese watercolor artwork and coding them, animating them, all that kind of stuff. And I also streamed my own music into those games. So I'm a massive fan of jazzy hip hop, lo-fi, and I've been producing that on and off since I was around 14. And started streaming that into the games. Combined with my advertising expertise, I then met Wilfred. He's an ex-engineer of Google, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and he's the co-founder and CTO of AudioMob. And we basically stumbled upon the mechanism, which was streaming music into the games and then audio ads, because it made more sense to annoy users a lot less by monetizing them in this fashion.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. So when did it become clear to you that you were actually on the right track? Because I know starting a business is more like going on an adventure. It's not, a straightforward process.
Mm. So we knew there's a couple of different things. So the first thing is when we started doing a revenue test. So we raised our first $1 million, making around £1 a month, or dollar a month, I should say. And we knew that no one else in the ecosystem has attempted to do what we were doing. So that was the first thing in terms of, okay, we made £1, the thing works, we are the first people in the world. The second thing is that with, backgrounds at Google and Facebook, I've seen billions upon billions of dollars of ad dollars go into connected TV and YouTube and Facebook, and I have never ever heard or seen of an audio ad go into a game. So we kind of knew we were first movers, and we knew that if we can get the mechanism working, because the mobile gaming ecosystem is growing, the gaming ecosystem is growing, ad spend, etc. It was just all of those different like golden points where it was like, okay, growing opportunity. This is a gap. We believe this could be, less annoying. And then when we did the test, we raised money.
Wow, that's great. So do you still develop games in-house or you cooperate with game developers?
So we cooperate with a lot of game developers. We do have a couple of in-game in-house games that we've made for like demoing purposes, but we mostly work with lots of large game developers now.
Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. AudioMob does what radio and television advertising does, except that you do it in a clever and a fun way. In fact, you target one of the fastest growing segments online, as I said, a demographic that's out of radio and television reach. So is this something that you stumbled upon then while you were working on a project, or were you playing some sort of game and then you thought, I could build a business around this?
So the idea was that we thought that we were going to leave our companies to basically make something like Rocket League, where you've got these mobile games and they stream music into the games to make it a more enjoyable experience for players, and then hopefully retention would increase. But we always knew that we wanted to monetize the music that we'd stream into the games using audio ads. And then we met a guy called Sid Maefa from Draper Fund, and we pitched him, and he goes, the only way you're going to raise money is to pitch the businesses separately. So rather than pitching the music streaming mechanism alongside the audio ad mechanism, we decided to pivot to the audio ad mechanism because, Google, Facebook, advertising experts, then starting an ad network, it just seemed like it would be a much easier story to put past the investors in terms of why we're, the best people to build the product, as well as, all of the addressable spend sizes. Like, it made more sense us talking about advertising and ad dollars and the growth in those markets rather than talking about music and gaming, considering that, I didn't come from a games company or didn't come from a music label or something.
Oh,
So
I
we kind of
see.
knew, like, once we
Mhm.
split the narrative, it was relatively easy to raise, relatively speaking.
Great. Your website's homepage actually has demo videos about how your ad services work. I
Mm.
personally find the videos intuitive, actually, and I think the solution that you have created is a win-win for both advertisers and gamers because your audio ads are not distracting and the banners don't cover contents. So, how's business? Are you killing it?
Yeah, we are. I mean, we're still seeing, triple digit year-on-year growth, which is great. It's pretty much where every startup wants to kind of be. And we're able to navigate the severe economic difficulties. So yeah, basically we're still growing, we're not declining, and things are constantly looking upwards. So yeah, it's all going well. Thank you.
Oh, that's really great to hear. Yeah, and you mentioned earlier about your co-founder, the CDO, Mr. Obeng, and so you both were at Google. You had beautiful, let's say you had successful careers at Google, and you could have chosen just to to work at Google until retirement, but you left and never looked back. So what motivated you? Because to be honest, that was a bold move.
So it wasn't actually as hard as many people may think on the outside looking in. And it's because I always wanted to start my own business. I've got a
Mhm.
number of mentors that have started their own businesses, have their own exits, etc. And it's always something I wanted to do. And one of the things that I find very invigorating is the fact that every thought that I have actually matters in the context of business. So people watching this, they may be in a situation where they want to pursue the path of self-development, and sometimes career politics gets in the way or other things that aren't as relevant to pursuing the path that you're on to trying to achieve your dreams.
Mhm.
But one thing I saw from a young age, having these mentors, well, relatively young, I had mentors from the age of like 19 roughly, is if you own a business, every ounce of your being is towards how can I develop myself to grow the business. The $14 million that we raised last year, I
Mhm.
almost consider that almost like a $14 million training scheme where I have to figure out how to better myself in order to grow the business and deploy the $14 million to hire directors and then manage them, or develop the teams for my directors and indirectly manage them. And it's an amazing experience. So I kind of knew that the path of being an entrepreneur and raising money was a hard one, but absolutely worth it because I've seen my mentors do it and the paths that they've carved out for themselves. So it was really a no-brainer. I was like, okay, once I have a semblance of an idea and some traction from VCs that might want to talk to me, if I could even get it built, that was enough for me to just jump ship immediately.
Wow, great. It's good that you talked about raising capital, and I'll ask actually a question about that. But I wanted to
Mm.
know one thing actually, because I do have a couple of friends who play games like day and night, and what I realize about most of these games is that they capture the player's entire attention. So how do you guys at AudioMob manage to retain some of that attention and make sure that your ads are effective?
So the way that we think about it is, imagine that you've chosen to play a mobile game.
Hmm.
Your engagement within that game is going to be very high because you, of your own volition, have chosen to play that game. Otherwise, you would have just played another racing game or another puzzle game. Now, if we present an audio ad to a user out of a banner in that game during the gameplay, the reason that the attention is so high And the reason that we can track the intention of these users is if they decide to listen to a certain quartile of the ad. So, rather than listening to 30 seconds, maybe they listen to 60% or 75% of the ad. That's a good sign. If they decide not to close the ad, that's a good sign. If they decide to click through, that's an even better sign. And there's hundreds of other variables, but those are some of the main ones that I've mentioned. Now, if they decide to do any of those actions while playing the game, it means the engagement with the ad is higher than the engagement with the game. And I already mentioned that the engagement with the game is high because you're playing it. So we use that as a proxy for a targeting algorithm to identify users that actually want to listen to the ad and find out more about the offering during gameplay. If a user, for instance, had just crashed their car and then an audio ad came in because they weren't in the game driving the car, the engagement lowers, and then that is a less reliable proxy to use when targeting these users. So these are some of the very advanced mechanisms that we've developed at the company. And again, myself and Wolford have been trained by the best companies in the world to think about these things, Google and Facebook. So that's part of the reason why we're able to, do what we do and develop the innovations that we have at AudioMob.
Wow. Yeah, and it's incredible, really. Like I said, I spent a bit of time on your website, and yeah, I just thought everything was really great. But going to
Thank you.
the issue of raising capital now, of course, as an entrepreneur, I think I would say most entrepreneurs believe, or perhaps I would say, raising capital is probably the biggest challenge that a startup face. But your company has had successful rounds of investment, and it seems like you did it effortlessly. So, in fact, I dare say you are pretty much on track to becoming a unicorn in the near future. So, has it always been a smooth ride?
So definitely not. We've taken very specific steps to ensure that our story can be known via many outlets. We do talks, we've got a lot of tier one press. We literally took a pretty aggressive stance as to approaching our PR as effectively as a sales or an investment. A book that I encourage everyone to read, there's two of them, is Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley and Growth Hacker Marketing by Ryan Holiday. These two books kind of put us in the mode in terms of how to present ourselves online. And the reason that we're able to get these big deals, and the reason that somewhat our investment has been influenced is by some of our press outside of our underlying metrics as well. That being said, it wasn't always a smooth journey. Raising the first $1 million is the hardest thing that I've ever done, without question. Raising $14 million was actually easier than raising the $1 million. We raised $14 million in about 4.5 months in 2021. Took years to figure out how myself and Wolfred could effectively raise. And it's not about leaving the companies, then going on the raising trail. It's about figuring out how to educate yourselves to speak to an investor. What kind of metrics do they care about? What should your deck look like? What should the MVP look like? How do you persuade engineers to join your vision when you have no money? How do you persuade engineers to even work on the research with you? How do you persuade the first client? There is 1,000 different things. And it took a lot of people concentrate on how to raise money, but not enough people concentrate on how to educate and bet yourself to be that person that can raise money. That took me years to figure out. So it wasn't always smooth. It's just that what you'll notice is that the harder that you work on yourself to enable yourself to raise money for an idea and the way you pitch your idea and all that good stuff, you snowball very quickly. So all of our traction after years of progress, I mean, we've got within the last couple of years. And then that's just, the way things go, I guess.
Beautiful. I mean, it's been a long journey. You've learned, and now you have a proven business model and a phenomenal product. So what are the challenges in AudioMob's global expansion ambition?
So it is constantly the challenge of finding amazing people, because the kind of people that we employ at AudioMob they are exceptionally intelligent and highly, highly analytical as well. So rather than hiring, let's say, a salesperson that is able to really sell and build rapport, we need that plus some technical experience as well. And constantly we are on the search for hiring exceptional people because our pass rate is very, very low to get into the company. And again, we take a very rigorous stance on the quality of people that we hire, similar to Google, Snapchat, Monzo, because we are literally trying to become a unicorn within the next 4 years. So finding all of these different kinds of people in the different geos that we're expanding is very, very difficult. Definitely worth it once we find the right person, but that is by far the top objective of the company.
I see. So which countries are you operating in at the moment? Are you just in the UK or are you in other countries as well?
So in terms of where our products can reach, we are global. Pretty much every country outside of the typical ones like China that has a domesticated ecosystem, certain parts of Africa, etc. But we're pretty much global in terms of how advertising can reach people. In terms of offices, we have an office in London. That's a global HQ. Our R&D lab is in Abu Dhabi. That is where I'm calling from now. And we're opening up an office in New York and then hopefully Miami after that to cover LATAM. So it's going to be a busy 2023, I think.
Oh, well, yeah, that's quite a big ambition plan. And I think you definitely get there. You mentioned China just a little while ago, and that's actually what I wanted to ask as well, because China, Japan, if I'm not mistaken, are some of the biggest mobile gaming markets in the world. So do you have any plans to expand into these markets?
So eventually, so the way that the advertising ecosystem works within those regions is it's very domesticated and closed off. So the way that you would enter those regions, you need a completely different setup. It's very, very different from, starting in the UK and then going to the US. That there's a lot more consideration. So eventually we will expand to China, expanding to Japan. We're already in talks with partners, and we've got a little bit of business going on out there. But in terms of actually getting an office presence in China, yeah, it's eventual, but not in the short term.
Okay, yeah, I mean, because one of the reasons I asked that question is because Chinese entrepreneurs always have their eyes fixed on Western companies, and as soon as they see a great product coming out of the Western country, they try to replicate that as quickly as they can. And by the time that Western company tries to enter China, so the Chinese company will have already gained an upper hand, which results in the Western company failing to succeed in China.
Yeah, so it is a really, really interesting point. Now, one thing that we know is on our side is it's not nothing to do with patent technology and patented technology and IP and any of that stuff. It's the fact that the intricacies of what it would take to launch our product and the risk of the product breaking an existing business, like a publisher, for instance, that is something that the industry is much more sensitive to. So I do believe that we've already been noticed in those parts of the world, but in order to scale such a product, it would actually make more sense for us to enter and then get replicated, which is very, very typical of the ad tech market. Now, whether we enter versus with a partner or an acquisition or something, there are many, many different ways to enter. And other ad tech companies in the video space, for instance, have successfully entered China using some of these methods. But to be honest, yeah, we probably need a Series B to do it properly. We're not going to scrappily, go into a country and kind of dip our toe into the water. You need a hell of a lot of money to do it effectively. So yeah, we've got an idea of how we'll do it, but it will definitely be in the future.
Fantastic. Well, Christian, I know you're a busy man, so I'll let you go, but I want to thank you very much for coming on Blockchain Tech. Congratulations on what you've achieved, and I wish you many more successes.
Thanks for having me. Really, really glad to be here. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.